Boom, hey internets, John Phenom here for Supacolor, and we got 10 tips for you to make your artwork process super smooth. Now these are 10 items we talked about with our art department here, and they might delay your turnaround time if you haven't prepared your artwork correctly. And right up front, we want to let you know that if you get stuck on any one of these art specs, we have an entire team at Supacolor that's willing to help you. That's right, at no extra cost. We are here to help you regardless through the process. So we have a team of artists and graphic designers who understand your file in and out. We understand we serve a range of people, so not all of you went to school for graphic design, but we got a team here that can help coach you through and help you with best practices so you can get that file ready properly so we can get those transfers to you ASAP. And we want the quickest time for you to go from concept to garment. So let's dig into these 10 things to make your Supacolor transfers super fast. Okay, vector files. So we're talking about anything designed in Adobe Illustrator, Affinity Designer, Silhouette Studio, or CorelDRAW. Number one, your line weight. Make sure the lines that you make are thick enough. We want them at least 1 point or 0.35 millimeters. Now, I would go a little bit thicker than that. I would make this stroke a little bit bigger because even when you have the artwork done, it can make it very difficult to have a clean transfer with very thin lines. But at least 1 point for lines, I would go slightly thicker than that. Number two, convert fonts to outlines. You want to make sure it's not a live font, but transformed into an outline or a shape, in other words. As all of you know, fonts and choosing the right font is a big part of a design. Now, as a designer, whenever you're taking anything to a final version or taking it to print, you are taught to outline that font. That means we're taking it from a live font that you can change and change size into a shape. We're creating it into an actual shape, because if you're opening this up on someone else's computer, for example, and they don't have that exact font, it's going to try to find a substitution, and you can imagine how that could ruin your design. So in this example, you can see I have a live font, and all of you have worked with that. This is in Adobe Illustrator. Now up at the menu bar, I'm simply going to go to type, go down, and then I'm gonna go create outlines. So now all of these letters are transformed into shapes, just like circles or triangles. And now that they are vector shapes, we're being very specific and intentional about what we want these letters and the final image to look like. Number three, along the same lines, with your strokes, you want them to be shapes or objects. Okay, I am inside of Adobe Illustrator, and I make this quick rendering here. Now, the idea of outlining strokes into objects or shapes is actually the same idea as outlining fonts that we just talked about. So I have a simple rendering here of 3 mountains and waves resembling the sea and a sun. If we look at this in the outline version or in the skeleton form, you can see all of these are literally just lines. So this is going to be a good example for what we're talking about here right now. If I select everything and go into strokes and start playing with the weight of the stroke, you can see it change. I'm gonna do the drop down and go to like 8. And as you can see, that is much different than what it looks like at a lighter weight. You can see the thickness of that changes the aesthetic of the design. Now for Supacolor transfers, we don't wanna ever go under 1. So this is what 1 looks like, and if I zoom out a little bit, this is on an 8.5 by 11 artboard. So that is quite small. I don't think there's a design that you would need to go under 1. And just to be safe, I actually like to go no lower than 1.5. And I think I would challenge you to know the difference between 1 and a 1.5 in terms of your design. Okay, so let's turn these strokes into shapes. I'm gonna change the thickness to a 4 just so you can see the difference, and I'm gonna zoom in a bit. Now again, you could tell these are still strokes. You can see the blue line in the center of all of these. So that's a good indicator. I'm just gonna go to objects, and in the drop down here, I'm gonna go to path and outline stroke. And as you can see now, if I go into the outline mode, you can see that these are now shapes. Where there used to be a line here, this is now a rectangle. zoom out a bit so you can see that as well. And if I go into outline mode, you can see all of these have become separate shapes. Also, if I select these, you can see that there's no information for stroke because they're no longer strokes. I can add a stroke, but it would be adding a stroke on these shapes now. So just for that example, I'll add a little bit of a stroke to these while they're selected. And I'll change the stroke color to a contrast color so you can see that. Okay, so these shapes now have a stroke on them. And you can see the lines in the strokes here, the blue lines. But let me not further confuse you. Just wanted to drive the point home. So if I remove that stroke, we have our design that we wanted at 4 points, and we turned these strokes into shapes. Number 4, images that are used in the artwork, make sure they're embedded and not merely linked to the file. You don't want it to reference a file. You want all of the ingredients there on that artwork file. So we want to embed those into the artwork. I wanted to give you guys an actual example of bringing an image into an Adobe Illustrator file. So I'm going to grab the Supacolor that I used earlier and I turned it into outlines. And I'm going to grab half of it and kind of stack it up and down. So I'm going to move the color underneath the Supa, and I'm just going to eyeball, making it even with the top. So I'm just going to select the bottom portion and size it up. Now I doctored an image in Photoshop. It was part of a face of like a Roman god, and I made it all purple, and then I just kind of made it into a rectangle. And so I'm going to hit place and grab that Photoshop file. That is just a JPEG or a PNG at this point. You can see it here. And I'm going to place it into my file. Now, when you bring images in, there's a big X on them. You can see the X right here. That means it's not linked to the file. It is not linked to my Adobe Illustrator. So the best way to remedy that is kind of in the middle. I just hit embed right there. And now you can see the image no longer has an X. This image is embedded into this Illustrator file. So now I'm just going to move it behind Supacolor. The words, I'm going to click on the words, and under Pathfinder, I'm going to click Unite. Then jump over to Object and click on Compound Path. That just gets it all set so I can mask it. Select both and then make the mask. You've seen this technique used before, but really, I just want to show you a real example of me bringing an image and embedding it into the file. Okay, moving on to raster files. Now this could go for vectors, but definitely for raster or bitmapped files. That's artwork that's created by Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Fresco, Affinity Photo, or GIMP. Number 5. You might want to stay away from transparencies. Transparencies and glows at the edge of artwork is hard. We cannot place transparencies and glows at the edge of artwork. But if the transparency or glow is inside a solid edge or is on top of a solid color, then it's possible. And just to be absolutely sure that I drive this point home, you want to keep any glow or transparencies 100% away from the edges. It can be inside of the design, but not on the edges. Experience has taught us that this will not come out the way you're intending it to come out. So again, stay away 100% from the edges when it comes to transparencies and glow. Number 6, low resolution files. You do not want to use a file that's under 300 dpi. Ideally, we recommend anywhere from 300 to 900 dpi. But if you give a bad quality image or a low resolution image, the end result is also going to be low quality. Number 7, flattening backgrounds. If there's something that's a reference point or you're using it as a base in terms of a color, or as an example, we want to remove that. Remember, you want to turn in just the artwork. So if there's a background that's not meant to be part of the final artwork, you want to remove that before you submit the file. Number 8, this is a big one. Always CMYK. There's a huge difference between RGB and CMYK, and you will see the difference. So it's better that you create the artwork in CMYK so the end result is closer to what you are imagining or designing. RGB is typically a color mode that's used for the web, and so CMYK is used for more printed product. Any files that's given to us in RGB is going to be converted to CMYK. So you might as well start with it in the beginning. Number 9, save as a PDF. Whether it's a vector or a raster, save it as a PDF. Now, if you do create a vector, we will accept AI and EPS, but again, a PDF would be better. On the same token, a raster file can be submitted as a PSD, a TIFF, an EPS, a PNG, or a JPEG. But again, we would prefer that you submit it as a PDF. But if it's a simple file, again, remember, we have an entire team here to work with you. Whether it's an AI or a PS file, we're here to help you get the final version and format of your artwork ready to go. Number 10, submit the correct template size. Your artwork needs to match that size or be smaller or slightly smaller than whatever those template parameters are. So if you have a piece of artwork that's 3x3, it's probably going to fit in our 4x4 LC template. So if you wanted less waste, you could make that artwork a little bit bigger, but if that was your perfect size, then the 4x4 LC would be the one you would choose. Please don't send mismatched sizes and call out a different template. All of these are outlining quality control so that the artwork you submit can be closer to the concept when we output the transfer. So in other words, we just don't want your artwork to be bigger than the size that you're calling out. All right, we want to make sure that your art fits inside of or is smaller than the given dimensions of each template. Let us know if you think we missed anything. Again, I'm John Phenom for Supacolor, where we're just trying to help you make it, and I want to help you go from concept to garment as easily as possible. If you've made it to the video this long, thank you for watching. Again, we made this video for your benefit. These are 10 things that could be a snag when it comes to getting your artwork done quickly. But again, we have an entire team outfitted to help you set up your artwork properly in case you're unsure or some of this is gray area for you. We're here to help you. So contact us here at Supacolor in case any of it is unclear. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.